The mahogany door clicked shut with a sound so soft it might as well have been a bomb detonating in JL's chest. She stood frozen in the empty conference room, phone pressed against her ear. The words she'd just spoken hanging in the air like incriminating evidence. Behind that door, the one that had just closed so quietly, so deliberately, Kim Tae-hyun had been standing there. The Kim Tae-hyun, her boss, the man who ran the Obsidian Group with an iron fist wrapped in Hermes leather. The man she'd spent the last 15 minutes absolutely roasting to her best friend Maya back in Atlanta. "Girl, I'm telling you," she'd been saying, pacing in her burgundy wide-leg trousers and cream silk blouse that she'd paired with gold hoops big enough to see from space. "This man is certifiably insane. Today he made me sit in on a meeting about shipping routes." Shipping routes, Maya. I'm the head of creative design, not a logistics coordinator. And you know what he did the whole time? Stared at me. Just stared. Like I was supposed to present a dissertation on cargo containers. Maya's laughter had crackled through the speaker. "Maybe he likes you, boo." "Likes me?" "The man yelled at me this morning because I used the wrong conference room." "The wrong conference room, Maya. They all look the same. It's like he wakes up and thinks, how can I make JL's life difficult today? I swear, if I didn't need this job to pay off my student loans, I'd tell him exactly where he could shove his." That's when she'd done her impression. The one that would probably haunt her for the rest of her professional life. She deepened her voice, squared her shoulders, and channeled every drama villain she'd ever seen. "Miss Thompson, in Korea, we value precision. Perhaps American standards are different." She'd added a dramatic hair flip that didn't match Taehyun's actual appearance at all, but captured the essence of his condescension perfectly. "And another thing, why does he dress like he's about to attend a funeral for fashion itself? All black everything every single day. Black suit, black tie, black soul probably. The man wouldn't know color if it bit him in his perfectly tailored." The door had clicked. Now, 30 seconds later, JL stared at that same door, her phone still clutched in her hand. Maya's voice a distant buzzing. "JL? Hello? Did you freeze?" "Girl, the connection is terrible. I have to go," JL whispered. "What? Why are you whispering?" "Because I think I just ended my career in Korea." She hung up before Maya could respond. JL pressed her hands against her face, her perfectly applied burgundy lipstick probably smearing, though that was the least of her problems. How much had he heard? When had he come in? The conference room had been empty when she ducked in here to make the call. She'd checked. Twice. Unless her eyes darted to the small alcove near the entrance where presentations materials were stored. The blind spot. The one place you couldn't see from the main seating area. "Oh God," she muttered. "Oh God, oh God, oh." Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "My office." Now, the number wasn't unknown at all. She just never saved it because she'd never needed to text her boss before. He usually just appeared, like some designer-clad specter, whenever he wanted something. JL's hands trembled as she checked her reflection in the darkened glass wall. Her honey-blonde box braids were still perfect, swept over one shoulder and cascading down to her waist. Her makeup was flawless. She'd watched enough Korean beauty tutorials to master that dewy skin look while still keeping her own style. The gold accessories she wore caught the light. Hoops, layered necklaces, rings on 3 fingers. She looked good. She looked professional. She looked like someone about to get deported. The walk to the executive floor felt like a funeral march. The Obsidian Group headquarters occupied the top 15 floors of the Songdo International Business District's most impressive tower. All glass and steel and money. JL's heels clicked against the marble floors, custom Italian marble. She'd learned during her first week, when Taehyun had randomly decided she needed to accompany him while he inspected it. Just another bizarre instance of him requiring her presence for things that had nothing to do with her actual job. The executive floor was quieter than the rest of the building, insulated by wealth and power. Taehyun's secretary, Minji, looked up as JL approached, her expression carefully neutral. Minji was older, elegant, and had perfected the art of seeing everything while revealing nothing. "He's expecting you," Minji said in Korean, then added in English, "Good luck." That didn't sound promising. JL knocked once, heard a curt enter. and stepped into the lion's den. Kim Tae-hyun's office was exactly what you'd expect from a man who'd inherited a logistics empire at 25 and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate by 32. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Incheon Bay. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her annual salary. Abstract art that she suspected might be actual Rothkos. And behind an obsidian desk, because of course it was obsidian, sat the man himself. He didn't look up immediately. He never did. It was a power play JL had observed dozens of times when vendors or subordinates entered his office. Make them wait. Make them sweat. Establish dominance. Today, though, she noticed details she'd usually ignore while panicking about whatever task he was about to assign her. The way his black hair was styled just slightly askew, like he'd run his hands through it recently. The sharp line of his jaw clenched tight. The way his fingers drummed once against the desk. The only tell that he might be feeling something other than cold calculation. He was wearing all black again. A three-piece Tom Ford suit. Fitted so perfectly it looked painted on. The only deviation from his monochrome aesthetic was the deep charcoal of his shirt and the black silk tie with the faintest sheen of texture. On anyone else, it would look somber. On Tae-hyun, it looked like power personified. He looked up. JL's breath caught. She'd never really looked at him before. Not like this. Had never let herself notice the sharp intelligence in his dark eyes, or the way his features balanced severity with something almost beautiful. She'd been too busy being irritated by him to see him. Sit, he said. She sat. The leather chair was comfortable, which seemed wrong. Shouldn't the chair be terrible if you were about to be fired? Miss Thompson. His English was perfect, barely accented, which made sense given he'd gone to Oxford. How long have you been with Obsidian Group? 14 months, she said, lifting her chin. If she was going down, she'd do it with dignity. 14 months of exemplary work in the creative design department. I've increased campaign engagement by 47%, redesigned the entire brand aesthetic for 3 subsidiary companies, and won 2 international design awards for the company. One of his eyebrows rose incrementally. I'm aware of your accomplishments. Then you're also aware that I'm good at my job. Excellent, even. So, whatever you heard. What do you think I heard? He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled under his chin. The gesture should have looked pretentious. Instead, it looked dangerous. JL's mind raced. Deny everything? Play dumb? Apologize? I think, she said slowly, that you heard me having a private conversation that I believed was private. And I think that however I may have expressed myself, it doesn't change the fact that I've been a professional and productive employee. A professional employee who thinks I dress for funerals? So he'd heard that part. Great. Fantastic. Wonderful. She stopped. Started again. In my defense, you do wear a lot of black. Was that a smile? No, couldn't be. Kim Tae-hyun didn't smile. He barely seemed to have facial expressions beyond stern and slightly more stern. You also, he continued, and now she was certain there was amusement in his voice. Believe I'm an asshole who makes your life deliberately difficult. I said you acted like an asshole, JL corrected before she could stop herself. There's a difference. I'm sure you're very nice to people you like. And you think I don't like you. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. I think you tolerate me because I'm good at my job, which is fine. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to work, save money, and experience living in Korea. Your personal opinion of me is irrelevant. She was definitely getting fired now. But if she was going out, she might as well go out honestly. Taehyun stood, and JL's heart rate kicked up. He was tall. She'd known that abstractly, but standing, moving around the desk, he seemed to fill the space. He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets, studying her with an intensity that made her want to squirm. I don't tolerate you, Miss Thompson, he said quietly. Tolerance implies suffering through something unpleasant. You are not unpleasant. JL blinked. Thank you. You are, however, entirely wrong about my motivations. He moved to the window, his back to her now, silhouetted against the bright afternoon sky. I don't make you attend irrelevant meetings because I'm an asshole. I don't require your presence during inspections because I enjoy inconveniencing you. And I certainly don't. He stopped, jaw working like he was chewing on words he didn't want to say. The silence stretched. JL sat perfectly still, afraid to break whatever moment this was. I don't yell at you because I dislike you, he finally said, still not looking at her. I yell because you're the only person in this entire company who doesn't treat me like I'm made of glass and money. You yell back. You challenge me. You exist in my space without disappearing into the wallpaper. Sir, do you know what it's like? He continued, and now he turned, and the expression on his face was so raw it made her chest ache. To have everything you could possibly want except the one thing that matters? To have people fear you, respect you, obey you, but never truly see you. JL opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Are you saying you've been bothering me at work because you have a crush on me? The word crush seemed to physically pain him. His jaw clenched. That's a juvenile way to phrase it. But accurate? He didn't deny it. JL started to laugh. She couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all, the stress, the confusion, the months of thinking her boss hated her when actually he'd been what? Flirting? Was making her catalog shipping containers Korean Mafia boss flirting? This isn't funny, Taehyun said, but his voice had lost its edge. It's hilarious, JL corrected, wiping at her eyes, careful not to smudge her mascara. You're a billionaire who runs half of Seoul's underground business. Don't think I don't know about the other side of Obsidian Group? And you've been pining after me like a schoolboy? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I don't pine. You literally just gave a monologue about how I'm the only one who sees you. That's pining, bestie. That's the definition of pining. He looked offended. Don't call me bestie. Would you prefer boss? Sir? The man who eavesdropped on my private conversation? Taehyun, he said. My name is Taehyun. The air between them shifted, charged with something new. JL stood, smoothing down her trousers, buying herself time to think. This was insane. This was her boss. Her stupidly handsome, emotionally constipated, apparently love-struck boss. Taehyun, she said, testing how his name felt in her mouth. Felt good. Dangerous. I appreciate your honesty. I do. But I'm not interested in dating my boss. Something flickered across his face. Disappointment, maybe? It was gone too quickly to identify. I understand, he said stiffly, retreating back into formality like armor. This conversation will not affect your employment. You have my word. Good. She headed for the door, then paused with her hand on the handle. Turn back. But just so we're clear, if you want me, you'll have to do better than secret longing and shipping route meetings. He stared at her. What? You heard me. I'm not interested in being some trophy you acquire like another company or building. If Kim Taehyun wants JL Thompson, he's going to have to work for it. He's going to have to prove he sees me as an equal, not an employee or an obsession. She smiled, slow and deliberate. Consider me the boss now. You want me? You do everything I want. You jump when I say jump. You prove you're worth my time. The shock on his face was absolutely delicious. That's you can't. Can't I? She opened the door. Good talk, Taehyun. See you at tomorrow's marketing meeting. Try wearing some color. Maybe navy. Live a little. She left him standing there, probably for the first time in his adult life, completely speechless. It wasn't until she was safely back in her own office, door closed, that she let herself process what had just happened. She'd essentially challenged a mafia boss to court her. She'd turned the tables completely, made herself the prize instead of the pursued. Her phone buzzed. Maya. Girl, what happened? Did you get fired? JL grinned, typing back. Bestie, you won't believe this, but I think I just became the boss of my boss. This was either the best decision she'd ever made, or the one that would get her killed. She was betting on the former, and she was absolutely going to enjoy every minute of making Kim Taehyun work for what he wanted. The game, as they said, was officially on. The next morning, JL walked into Obsidian Group headquarters wearing confidence like a second skin and an outfit that could stop traffic. She'd chosen a burnt orange midi dress that hugged every curve before flaring slightly at the knees, paired with a structured black blazer that somehow made the whole thing boardroom appropriate while still being absolutely fire. Her box braids were styled in an intricate half-up, half-down situation with gold cuffs decorating a few select braids. Gold strappy heels, a black leather tote, and oversized sunglasses completed the look. She looked like money, power, and trouble all wrapped into one 5'7" package. Minji did a double take when JL stepped off the elevator onto the executive floor. "Miss Thompson, you look amazing, incredible, like I woke up and chose violence." JL grinned, sliding her sunglasses up onto her head. "Thanks, Minji. Is he in?" "Mr. Kim arrived an hour early," Minji said, her eyes twinkling with something that looked suspiciously like amusement. "He's been restless. He's reorganized his desk twice and changed ties 3 times. JL's grin widened. "Fascinating. Hey, do me a favor? When he asks, and he will ask, tell him I'm in the design studio, working, like the excellent employee I am." She didn't wait for a response, just strutted toward the design department with the energy of someone who just realized they were holding all the cards in a game they hadn't even known they were playing. The design studio was JL's sanctuary, a massive open space filled with natural light, mood boards, fabric samples, and the creative chaos of her team. She transformed it from a sterile corporate design room into something that actually inspired creativity. There were plants everywhere, artwork from local Korean artists on the walls, and a color palette that proved not everything in this building had to be black, white, and gray. Her team greeted her with the usual morning energy, and JL settled into work mode, pulling up the campaign designs for Obsidian Group's new luxury hotel branch. She was deep into adjusting the color gradient on a promotional banner when she felt it, that prickle at the back of her neck that meant she was being watched. She didn't look up, just kept working, a small smile playing at her lips. "Miss Thompson." There it was, that voice, smooth and controlled, with just the barest hint of tension underneath. "Mr. Kim," she responded, still not looking up from her screen. "How can I help you?" She heard him step further into the studio. Her team had gone suspiciously quiet. They could sense the shift in energy, the way the air seemed to crackle when their boss entered a room. "I need to discuss the hotel campaign with you. I'll send the files to your office by end of day. I'd prefer to discuss it now. I'm busy now." The silence that followed was delicious. JL could practically feel his frustration, the way he wasn't used to being dismissed. She finally looked up, making a show of reluctance, and nearly choked on air. Taehyun was wearing navy, a navy 3-piece suit that fitted him like a prayer, with a crisp white shirt and a navy tie with the subtlest silver pattern. He looked softer somehow, less intimidating, though no less devastating. His hair was styled slightly different too, still professional but with a bit more texture, like he'd actually used product instead of just slicking it back. He'd listened. He'd actually taken her throwaway comment about wearing color and done something about it. Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them. He knew she'd noticed, and he knew she knew he'd done it deliberately. "Nice suit," she said casually, turning back to her screen. "Navy looks good on you. Very approachable. I'll take that as a compliment." "You should." She saved her work and stood, smoothing down her dress. "Conference room 3. 5 minutes. I need to grab my tablet." She walked past him, close enough to catch the scent of his cologne. Something expensive and clean with notes of bergamot and cedar, and headed to her office. Her hands were shaking slightly as she gathered her materials. This was insane. Yesterday she'd basically told her boss to court her, and now he was showing up in navy suits like some kind of romantic gesture, and she was supposed to just... what? Maintain professional boundaries? Pretend her heart wasn't racing? When she entered conference room 3, Taehyun was already there, standing by the windows with his hands in his pockets. He turned as she entered, and the look on his face was so unguarded for a moment that it made her breath catch. "So," she said, setting down her tablet and leaning against the table, "the hotel campaign, what specifically did you want to discuss?" "Nothing." JL blinked. "I'm sorry. There's nothing wrong with the campaign. Your work is, as always, exceptional." He moved closer, and JL fought the urge to back up. I needed an excuse to see you. You're my boss. You can see me whenever you want. Not like this. He gestured between them. Not without the pretense of work. Yesterday you changed the rules. You made yourself the boss. So I'm following your rules. I'm trying to court you, I believe you said. The way he said court like it was a foreign concept he was testing out made JL want to laugh and melt in equal measure. Tae-hyun, she said carefully. You can't just say you want to court me and expect that to work. That's still you being the boss, making declarations, assuming I'll fall in line. Then tell me what you want. I want you to surprise me. I want you to show me that you see JL Thompson, the woman, not just the employee you've been orbiting for 14 months. I want effort, creativity, something that proves you're willing to step outside your perfectly controlled world for me. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. Understood. That's it. You've given me my instructions. Now I'll execute them. A hint of a smile touched his lips. You're not the only one who's good at their job, Miss Thompson. He left her standing there, mind spinning, wondering what exactly she'd just unleashed. The first surprise came that afternoon. JL returned from a meeting with the marketing team to find her desk covered in flowers. But not just any flowers. A carefully curated arrangement of orange roses, yellow chrysanthemums, and African marigolds. Flowers that actually complemented her aesthetic instead of the generic red roses most men defaulted to. The card read, colors that match your energy. Her team was absolutely losing their minds, whispering and giggling like they were in a drama. JL tried to play it cool, but she couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. The second surprise came 2 days later. She arrived at work to find an email from Tae-hyun requesting her presence at a design consultation at one of Obsidian Group's newest acquisitions, a contemporary art gallery in Gangnam. When she arrived, slightly suspicious, she found Tae-hyun waiting outside, looking completely out of place in his sharp suit among the artistic crowd. A design consultation? She asked, one eyebrow raised. I'm considering featuring some of these artists in the hotel campaign, he said smoothly. I value your artistic opinion. It was a flimsy excuse and they both knew it. But as they walked through the gallery, something shifted. Tae-hyun didn't just pretend to care about the art. He actually engaged with it, asked her questions, listened when she explained why certain pieces moved her. He'd done research, she realized. He knew about her background in art history, her thesis on the intersection of African and Asian artistic traditions. He was trying. They stopped in front of a massive abstract piece, all bold oranges and deep blues swirling together. It reminds me of you, Tae-hyun said quietly. JL glanced at him. How so? Impossible to ignore. Beautiful in an unconventional way, demanding attention without apologizing for it. He turned to face her fully. When you first joined Obsidian Group, you wore a yellow blazer to your interview. Everyone else wore black or navy or gray, trying to blend in, trying to look like they already belonged. You wore yellow. You walked in like you owned the place. I remember that interview, JL said. You barely looked at my portfolio. You just asked me why I chose yellow. Do you remember what you said? I said, because I'm not here to blend in. You can hire boring anywhere. You hired me because you wanted something different. I knew right then, Tae-hyun admitted, that you were going to be a problem for me. A problem. The best kind. His voice dropped lower. The kind I couldn't stop thinking about. The kind that made me realize how gray my world had become. JL's heart was doing acrobatics in her chest. This man, this powerful, controlled, dangerous man was being vulnerable with her. Real with her. Tae-hyun, she started. But he shook his head. I'm not asking for anything. Not yet. You told me to prove myself. So that's what I'm doing. He checked his watch. You should get back. I know you have the product launch meeting at 3. He'd memorized her schedule. As JL rode back to the office, she realized she was in serious trouble. Because Kim Tae-hyun wasn't just trying to win her over, he was actually succeeding. Over the next 2 weeks, the surprises continued. He started showing up at the small cafe where she got her morning coffee, always arriving just as she did, never pushing for conversation but clearly timing his schedule to match hers. He wore colors now. Burgundy, charcoal, deep forest green, and she suspected he'd actually hired a stylist to help him branch out from his monochrome safety zone. He sent her playlists, actual playlists, carefully curated with a mix of Korean R&B, Afrobeats, and American soul music. Songs that showed he'd been paying attention to what played in the design studio, what she hummed while working. He started asking her opinion on things that had nothing to do with work. Restaurants he was considering investing in, charities Obsidian Group should support, even what color they should paint the executive floor bathrooms. She'd suggested a soft sage green just to see if he'd actually do it, and he had. But the thing that got her, the thing that really made her defenses start to crumble, was how he'd started treating her at work. He stopped making her sit in on irrelevant meetings. Instead, he asked her which meetings she thought were worth her time. He stopped hovering and started trusting her judgment. When she presented ideas, he listened, really listened, and implemented them even when they went against his initial instincts. He was learning to see her as an equal, not a possession. And it was working. "Girl, you need to put this man out of his misery," Maya said during one of their video calls. "He's literally reorganizing his entire personality for you." "He's not reorganizing his personality," JL argued, though she wasn't sure she believed it. "He's just showing different sides of himself." JL Thompson, "I have known you since freshman year of college. I know when you're falling for someone. And Bestie, you're falling hard." JL groaned, flopping back on her couch. I know, okay? But what if I give in and then he goes back to being the controlling asshole boss? What if this is all just a chase for him, and once he gets me, the effort stops? Then you dump his ass and move on. But babe, you can't punish him forever for crimes he didn't even know he was committing. The man was emotionally constipated and didn't know how to express his feelings. Now he's trying. Actually trying. That deserves something. When did you become so wise? I've always been wise. You just don't listen. Maya's expression softened. Real talk though. Are you scared because you don't trust him? Or because you've never felt like this before? JL closed her eyes. Both. That's fair. Just don't let fear make you miss out on something good. You moved halfway across the world for a job. Maybe it's time to take another risk. This time for yourself. The breaking point came 3 weeks after that conversation in his office. JL was working late, finalizing the hotel campaign that was set to launch the following week. The design studio was empty, just her and the soft glow of her monitors, and the Seoul skyline visible through the windows. She didn't hear him approach until he was already there, setting down a cup of coffee on her desk. Made exactly how she liked it, with oat milk and a shot of vanilla. Burning the midnight oil? Taehyun asked. JL jumped, hand flying to her chest. God, you need to wear a bell or something. How long have you been here? I never left. He gestured to the executive floor above. I had work to finish as well. He was in shirt sleeves, jacket discarded, tie loosened, hair slightly mussed like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked more relaxed than she'd ever seen him, and somehow that made him even more attractive. Thanks for the coffee, she said, taking a sip. Perfect as usual. He'd learned her coffee order within a week of this whole thing starting. Can I see what you're working on? She hesitated, then turned her monitor toward him. It was the hero image for the campaign, a stunning photograph of the hotel's infinity pool at sunset, overlaid with elegant typography in a font sheet custom designed. The color palette was warm golds and deep teals, luxury and comfort merged together. It's perfect, Taehyun said immediately. You've captured exactly what I wanted this hotel to represent. Which is a place where people can be themselves, where luxury doesn't mean cold and impersonal, where beauty and warmth coexist. He looked at her. You understand that balance better than anyone I know. JL saved her work and swiveled in her chair to face him fully. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why me? And I don't mean the surface stuff about me being different or challenging you. I mean really, why me? You could have anyone. Models, actresses, socialites who understand your world. Why chase after your employee who gives you attitude and makes your life complicated? Taehyun pulled up a chair and sat down, elbows on his knees, close enough that she could count his eyelashes if she wanted to. When I was 25, he began, I inherited an empire I didn't ask for. My father died, and suddenly I was responsible for thousands of employees, billions in assets, and a reputation that preceded me everywhere I went. People stopped seeing me. They saw my last name, my bank account, my potential usefulness to them. Every interaction became transactional. Every relationship had an angle. He paused, jaw working like the words were difficult. Then you walked into that interview in a yellow blazer, and you looked at me like I was just another person you had to impress with your work. Not my money, not my power, just me. And when I hired you, you didn't change. You didn't start treating me differently. You argued with me about font choices. You rolled your eyes when I made unreasonable requests. You existed in my orbit without being pulled into it. So you fell for me because I was rude to you? JL asked, a smile tugging at her lips. I fell for you because you were real, because when you smiled, it was genuine. When you were frustrated, you showed it. You didn't perform for me. You just were. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a loose braid behind her ear. And then I got addicted to being around you, to the way you light up when you talk about design, to your laugh when something actually amuses you instead of that polite chuckle people give their bosses, to the way you've never once asked me for anything except to be left alone to do your job. His hand was still near her face, and JL found herself leaning into it without thinking. I've been doing what you asked, he continued softly, proving myself, trying to show you that I see you, all of you, not just the parts that fit conveniently into my life. So I have to ask, is it working? Or am I wasting both our time? JL's breath caught. This was it. The moment. She could keep playing this game, keep making him work for it, keep protecting herself behind walls of professionalism and sass. Or she could be brave. She could take the risk. Take me to dinner, she said. Taehyun blinked. What? You heard me. Take me to dinner. Not a business dinner. Not a design consultation. An actual date. Tomorrow night. 7 o'clock. And you're planning everything. I don't want to know where we're going or what we're doing. Surprise me. I can do that. One more thing. Anything. If we do this, if we try this, we do it as equals. Not boss and employee. Not Mafia king and civilian. Just Taehyun and JL. Can you handle that? He smiled then. A real smile that transformed his entire face. I've been trying to handle just that for 14 months. I think I'm ready. Good. She stood, gathering her things. Then I'll see you tomorrow night. Don't be late. Wouldn't dream of it. As she walked toward the elevator, she heard him call out, JL. She turned. He was standing in the doorway of the design studio, backlit by the city lights, looking like every drama leading man fantasy come to life. Thank you, he said simply, for giving me a chance. Don't thank me yet, she shot back with a grin. You still have to survive an actual date with me. I'm not easy. I know. That's what I love about you. The words hung in the air between them. He'd said love, not like love. JL's heart did a complete somersault, but she just smiled, pressed the elevator button, and said, see you tomorrow, Taehyun. As the elevator doors closed, she let herself feel it. The excitement, the nervousness, the absolute terror and joy of falling for someone who'd been falling for her all along. Maya was right. She was in deep, and for the first time in a long time, JL was okay with that. JL changed her outfit 4 times. 4 times. She, JL Thompson, who once gave a presentation to the board of directors in ripped jeans and a graphic tee just to prove a point about authenticity and branding, was having a full-blown wardrobe crisis over a date. This is ridiculous, she muttered to herself, staring at the pile of rejected outfits on her bed. He's already obsessed with you. You could show up in a potato sack and he'd probably write poetry about it. But that was the problem, wasn't it? She didn't want him obsessed with some idealized version of her. She wanted him to see her, really see her, on their first official date as equals. No power dynamics. No boss-employee weirdness. Just 2 people trying to figure out if this thing between them was real. She finally settled on a midi skirt in a vibrant African print, geometric patterns in oranges, teals, and golds, paired with a fitted black turtleneck and strappy heeled sandals. She left her braids down, added her signature gold jewelry, and finished with a bold lip in a deep berry color. The look was sophisticated but still unmistakably her. Her phone buzzed at exactly 6:55 p.m. "I'm downstairs. Take your time. Punctual." She appreciated that. JL grabbed her clutch, took one last look in the mirror, and headed down to the lobby of her apartment building in Hanamdong. She'd specifically chosen this neighborhood because it was international, diverse, and far enough from the office that she didn't feel like she was living in her boss's shadow. The sight that greeted her when she stepped outside nearly made her trip over her own feet. Taehyun was leaning against a midnight blue Aston Martin, looking like sin personified. He'd abandoned his usual suit for dark-fitted trousers and a charcoal cashmere sweater that probably cost more than her rent. His hair was styled casually, and he was wearing a watch that she recognized as a limited edition Patek Philippe. But it was the expression on his face when he saw her that made her stomach flip. Pure, unfiltered appreciation. "You're staring," JL said as she approached, though she was definitely staring too. "Can you blame me?" He opened the passenger door for her. "You look incredible." "I know," she said with a grin, sliding into the car. The interior was all leather and luxury, and it smelled like money and Taehyun's cologne. He got in the driver's side, and JL raised an eyebrow. "No driver. I told you. Tonight it's just us. No staff. No security hovering in the background. No buffer." He started the engine and it purred to life. "Just Taehyun and JL. I'm holding you to that." As they pulled into Seoul traffic, JL studied him from the corner of her eye. He seemed nervous, not in an obvious way but in the small details. The way his grip on the steering wheel was just a bit too tight. The way he kept glancing at her like he was making sure she was really there. "So where are we going?" she asked. "It's a surprise." "I don't like surprises." "Yes, you do. You just like pretending you don't." He merged onto the highway heading out of the city. "Trust me?" It was a loaded question. Did she trust him? The man who'd made her professional life chaos for months because he didn't know how to express feelings? The man who ran legitimate businesses by day and decidedly less legitimate operations by night? The man who was currently looking at her like she hung the moon? "I'm working on it," she said honestly. He nodded, accepting that. "That's all I can ask for." They drove in comfortable silence for a while, the city lights giving way to darker roads, and then finally to a coastal highway. JL could smell the ocean before she could see it. "Are you kidnapping me?" she asked, only half joking. "Would you believe me if I said no?" "Probably not." Taehyun laughed. An actual genuine laugh that made him look years younger. "I'm not kidnapping you. I'm taking you somewhere I think you'll like. Somewhere I've never taken anyone else." That got her attention. They pulled up to what looked like a private beach house. Modern architecture, all glass and clean lines, perched on a cliff overlooking the East Sea. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that rivaled JL's skirt. "Taehyun, what is this place?" "It's mine. My actual home. Not the penthouse in Seoul that everyone knows about." He parked and turned to face her. "I bought it 3 years ago when I needed somewhere to escape. Somewhere that wasn't connected to Obsidian Group or my family name or any of it. Only 5 people know about this place. Now you're the 6th. JL felt the weight of that admission. He wasn't just bringing her to a nice restaurant or some flashy venue to impress her. He was bringing her into his actual life, his private world. "Come on," he said, getting out and coming around to open her door. "Dinner's waiting." The interior of the house was stunning, minimalist but warm, with floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased the ocean view. But what caught JL's attention was the dining table set up on the deck outside, complete with candles, flowers, and what smelled like incredible food. "Did you cook?" she asked, incredulous. "God, no. I'd probably poison us both." He led her outside. "But I did have my private chef prepare everything. I told him about your food preferences, the fact that you miss certain flavors from home, and he created a fusion menu. Korean techniques with flavors you'd recognize." JL sat down at the table, genuinely touched. The first course was already plated, a beautiful arrangement that looked like art. "Jollof spiced bibimbap," Taehyun explained, sitting across from her. He said he consulted with a West African chef to get the spice blend right. JL took a bite and almost groaned. It was perfect, the familiar warmth of jollof spices mixed with the comfort of bibimbap. Tasted like home and her new life merged together. This is amazing, she said. Okay, you're doing pretty well on this date so far. Just pretty well? Don't get cocky. We're only on the first course. The meal continued, each course more impressive than the last. They had grilled fish with a suya-spiced rub, kimchi that had been fermented with hibiscus, and for dessert, a deconstructed malva pudding with yuzu. Throughout it all, they talked. Really talked. Taehyun told her about his childhood, growing up in a family where showing emotion was seen as weakness, how he'd learned to bury everything under layers of control and perfection, how inheriting the company had meant inheriting all his father's enemies and allies, never quite sure which was which. The other side of Obsidian Group, he said carefully. The part you mentioned knowing about, that came with my father too. The connections, the favors owed, the gray areas of business that aren't strictly legal but aren't strictly illegal either. I've been trying to move away from it, to make the company legitimate, but some ties are harder to cut than others. Are you in danger? JL asked directly. Should I be worried about dating someone who has enemies? I won't lie to you, there are risks, but I have extensive security measures in place. And I would never let anything happen to you. His jaw clenched. If being with me puts you in danger, I need to know now. I'll walk away. I'll leave you alone. Your safety matters more than my feelings. JL considered this. She really did. She thought about the risks, the complications, the absolute insanity of dating a man who operated in the shadows as much as the light. I'm from Atlanta, she finally said. I grew up in neighborhoods where danger was just a fact of life. I learned to be aware, to be smart, to trust my instincts. I'm not some delicate flower who needs protecting from the world. Taehyun. I'm a grown woman who can make her own choices about acceptable risk. So you're saying? I'm saying that if I let fear make all my decisions, I never would have moved to Korea in the first place. I never would have taken a job at a company I knew had questionable connections. I never would have yelled back at my boss when he was being an ass. She reached across the table and took his hand. I'm saying that I see the risks, and I'm choosing to take them anyway, because I want to see where this goes. The relief on his face was palpable. He turned his hand over, interlacing their fingers, and JL felt a zing of electricity at the contact. Your turn, he said. Tell me something real. Something you don't usually share. JL thought about deflecting, about giving him some surface-level truth. But he'd been vulnerable with her. She owed him the same. I'm terrified of not being enough, she admitted. I grew up watching my mom work 3 jobs to support us after my dad left. She sacrificed everything so I could go to college, chase my dreams, become someone. And I'm always afraid that I'm going to fail. That all her sacrifice will be for nothing. That I'll wake up one day and realize I'm just mediocre. JL, Taehyun said seriously, you are possibly the least mediocre person I have ever met. You're extraordinary. The work you do, the way you move through the world, the way you've completely disrupted my entire existence. There is nothing mediocre about any of it. You're biased. I'm honest. Ask anyone in the company. Ask your team. They're all slightly terrified of you in the best possible way. He smiled. You have this energy that makes people want to rise to your level. You make everyone around you better just by being yourself. JL felt her eyes getting misty and blinked rapidly. Stop it. You're going to ruin my makeup. Can't have that. Your makeup is perfect. He stood, still holding her hand. Come on. I want to show you something. He led her down a path from the deck to the beach below. They took off their shoes, and JL felt the cool sand between her toes, heard the waves crashing. Nearby, the sun had fully set now, and the stars were coming out. I come here when things get too heavy, Taehyun said, walking along the shoreline with her hand in his. When I need to remember that there's a whole world outside of board meetings and profit margins and family expectations. The ocean doesn't care who I am or what I'm supposed to be. It just exists. Is that why you brought me here? To show me the real you? Partly. Also because I wanted you to see that I'm serious. About us. About stepping outside my carefully controlled world for you. He stopped, turning to face her fully. You said I had to prove I see you as an equal, that I had to work for this. Have I done enough? JL looked at him, really looked at him, at the way the moonlight caught in his hair, at the vulnerability in his eyes, at the way he was holding her hand like she might disappear if he let go. You know what the funny thing is? She said. I set up all these hoops for you to jump through because I was scared. Scared of how much I was already starting to feel for you. Scared that if I gave in too easily, you'd lose interest. Scared that I was just another conquest. You were never a conquest. You were always the endgame. I'm realizing that now. She stepped closer, closing the distance between them. So yes, Taehyun, you've done enough. More than enough. You've been patient when you didn't have to be. You've changed when you could have just stayed in your comfort zone. You've let me lead when you're used to being in control. And honestly, it's been kind of hot watching you work for it. He laughed, pulling her closer until they were pressed together, her hands on his chest, his arms around her waist. So what now? Now you kiss me before I change my mind about this whole thing. Yes, ma'am. When his lips met hers, it was like everything clicked into place. The tension that had been building for weeks, months, really, finally had an outlet. The kiss started gentle, tentative, both of them testing the waters. But then JL wound her arms around his neck, and Taehyun's hands tightened on her waist, and gentle went out the window. It was passionate and consuming and absolutely perfect. He kissed like he did everything else, with complete focus and intensity. But there was also tenderness there, a reverence in the way he held her that made her feel precious. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, JL couldn't help but grin. Okay, yeah, that was worth the wait. Just worth the wait? I'm insulted. Fine. That was incredible and you're an excellent kisser and I might be slightly obsessed with you now. Happy? Extremely. He pressed his forehead to hers. I'm going to do everything in my power to keep you feeling that way. Good. Because I have plans for you. Kim Taehyun. Oh. See, I've spent the last few weeks being the boss, making you work for it. But now. She pulled back to look at him, her smile turning wicked. Now I'm going to enjoy every second of keeping you on your toes. You wanted me? You got me. But that means dealing with all of me. The attitude, the demands, the fact that I'm going to call you out on your bullshit whenever necessary. I wouldn't want it any other way. Even when I make you attend design presentations about color theory? Even then. Even when I drag you to Afrobeats nights in Itaewon? I'll learn to dance. Even when I steal your hoodies and reorganize your minimalist closet with actual colors. You can have all my hoodies. And my closet desperately needs color. JL laughed, kissing him again because she could. Because this beautiful, complicated, slightly dangerous man was hers now. And she was his, and it was terrifying and wonderful all at once. They stayed on the beach for hours, talking and kissing and making plans. Taehyun told her about places he wanted to take her. Jeju Island, the mountains in winter, a private island he owned in Thailand. JL told him about her dreams of opening her own design firm one day, about wanting to create opportunities for other Black creatives in Korea. I'll invest, he said immediately. I don't want your money. It's not charity. It's a smart business investment. You're brilliant, JL. When you're ready to go out on your own, I want to be part of making that happen. As a silent partner, you'd have full creative control. We'll discuss it later, much later. Right now, I'm still enjoying working for Obsidian Group. She grinned. Especially now that my boss is significantly less annoying. I was never annoying. I was charmingly persistent. You were a menace. Your menace, though. Yeah, JL said softly. My menace. The following Monday, the entire office knew something had changed. It wasn't anything obvious. They were both far too professional for PDA at work. But there was an energy between them now, a ease that hadn't existed before. Taehyun smiled more. JL stopped tensing every time he entered a room. They moved around each other with a familiarity that spoke volumes. Minji figured it out first, of course. She took one look at them during a morning meeting and actually smiled. A rare occurrence. It's about time, she said to JL later. I've been watching him pine after you for over a year. It was getting pathetic. You knew. Everyone knew. Except apparently you too. Minji handed JL a folder. These are the contracts for the hotel campaign launch. And congratulations on the campaign's success. And other things. JL couldn't help but grin. Thanks, Minji. The campaign launch was a massive success. The designs JL had created resonated perfectly with the target audience, and bookings for the hotel exceeded projections by 40% in the first week alone. Taehyun made sure everyone knew it was JL's vision that had made it happen, praising her work publicly and giving her full credit. "You're making me look too good," she told him. After the celebration dinner with the team, they were in his office, door closed, finally alone after hours of professional interactions. "Impossible. You are that good." He pulled her into his arms, and she went willingly, resting her head against his chest. "I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us," she corrected, "for figuring this out, for making it work. We make a good team. We make a great team." She pulled back to look at him. "But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that we keep this balanced. That you don't start giving me special treatment or going easy on me at work because we're together. I need to succeed on my own merits. JL, you already succeed on your own merits. But I promise. At work, you're my head of creative design. Outside of work, you're mine. Deal? Deal." Although, she added with a mischievous smile, "I'm pretty sure I'm the one who's in charge in this relationship. I'm not going to argue with that." "Smart man." He kissed her, slow and deep, and JL felt that same electricity she'd felt on the beach. This thing between them, it was real. It was solid. It was worth every risk. 3 months later, JL was moving into Taehyun's penthouse. Not the beach house that remained their private escape, but the Seoul penthouse had slowly become a second home for her anyway. Her clothes had migrated to his closet, and yes, she'd added so much color that he'd had to buy additional space. Her design books were stacked on his shelves. Her plants had taken over his balcony. "I can't believe I'm doing this," she said, directing the movers with her remaining belongings. "Moving in with my boss. Maya is never going to let me live this down. Technically, I'm moving in with my girlfriend who happens to work for my company," Taehyun corrected, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Big difference. Is it though?" "Absolutely. One implies a power imbalance. The other acknowledges that you have me completely wrapped around your finger." JL turned in his arms, grinning. "I do, don't I?" "Completely. Utterly. Embarrassingly so." He kissed her forehead. "And I wouldn't have it any other way." "Good. Because I have a list of things I want to change about this place." "Of course you do. The living room needs more color, and texture, and plants. Basically, it needs a soul. Do whatever you want. This is your home now too." JL looked around the penthouse. At the stunning views, the expensive everything, the life she was building with this man who'd gone from her annoying boss to the love of her life. It was surreal. It was perfect. It was exactly what she'd never known she wanted. "You know what's funny?" she said. "What?" "If you just asked me out normally, like a regular person, I probably would have said no. I would have thought you were just another rich guy trying to add me to his collection. But because you were terrible at expressing your feelings and made my life chaotic, I actually got to see who you really were. I got to see you try. I got to see you change. I got to see you be real. So you're saying my emotional incompetence was actually a good thing?" "I'm saying that everything happened exactly how it was supposed to. We both had to grow. I had to learn to trust. You had to learn to be vulnerable. And now we're here. Here is pretty great. Here is perfect." She pulled him down for a kiss. "But don't think this means I'm going to stop giving you attitude when you deserve it. I'm counting on it. Life would be boring otherwise." "Oh, you want excitement? Fine. I've decided we're getting a dog." "A dog? A big one. Maybe a golden retriever. We'll name him something ridiculous like Chairman Fluffington." Taehyun laughed, the sound free and genuine. "You're going to be the death of me, JL Thompson." "Probably. But you'll die happy. The happiest." 6 months after that, JL launched her own design firm, JT Creative, with Taehyun as a silent investor who kept his promise to let her have full creative control. She kept her position at Obsidian Group part-time, mentoring the designers she trained, but her firm was her baby. Within a year, JT Creative had become one of the most sought-after design agencies in Seoul, known for bold, culturally fusion work that challenged the status quo. JL had built something entirely her own, and Taehyun had supported her every step of the way without trying to control or manage it. Their relationship had its challenges, balancing two demanding careers, navigating the occasional threat from Taehyun's past business dealings, managing public scrutiny as their relationship became more known. But they faced everything together, as equals, as partners. JL never did stop giving him attitude when he deserved it, and Taehyun never stopped looking at her like she'd hung the moon. He still wore color now. She'd completely revolutionized his wardrobe. He still sent her playlists. He still showed up at her office with her favorite coffee. And every night, they came home to the penthouse that JL had transformed from a minimalist bachelor pad into a warm, vibrant space filled with art and plants and color and life. Chairman Fluffington. Yes, she'd actually named the dog that. Greeted them with enthusiastic tail wags. I have a question, Taehyun said one evening as they sat on the balcony, watching the Seoul sunset, the dog's head in JL's lap. Shoot, do you remember when you said that if I wanted you, I had to do everything you wanted? That you were the boss? Vividly, that was a power move. I'm still proud of it. Well, I've been doing everything you wanted for over a year now, following your lead, proving myself, jumping through hoops. And I think I've earned the right to ask for something I want. JL turned to look at him, curious. He had that nervous energy again, the same kind he'd had on their first date. Okay, what do you want? Taehyun stood up and then, to JL's complete shock, he got down on one knee. Oh my God, she breathed. JL Thompson, he said, pulling out a small velvet box. You stormed into my life wearing yellow and you've been adding color to it ever since. You've made me better. You've challenged me. You've loved me even when I didn't deserve it. You've built an empire while simultaneously running my heart. And I don't want to spend another day without knowing that you're mine forever. He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring, a golden orange sapphire surrounded by diamonds, set in rose gold. It was unique, bold, and so perfectly JL that she felt tears spring to her eyes. Will you marry me? Will you let me be your husband, your partner, your equal, and your biggest fan for the rest of our lives? JL looked at him. This beautiful man who'd learned to be vulnerable for her, who'd changed his entire world to fit her in it, who loved her with an intensity that still took her breath away. On one condition, she said. Name it. I'm still the boss. Taehyun laughed, his eyes bright with unshed tears of his own. Always. You're always the boss. Is that a yes? That's a yes, you ridiculous man. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to all of it. He slid the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly, of course it did. He'd probably had it custom made, had probably obsessed over every detail to make sure it was exactly right. Then he stood, pulling her up with him, and kissed her like they had all the time in the world and no time at all. Chairman Fluffington barked, probably wanting attention, and they both laughed against each other's lips. I love you, Taehyun said. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret saying yes. I love you too, JL replied. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life keeping you on your toes and probably driving you crazy. I'm counting on it. And as they stood there on the balcony, the Seoul sunset painting the sky in oranges and golds, JL thought about how far they'd come. From boss and employee to equals. From annoyance to attraction to love. From two people who didn't know how to communicate to partners who'd learned each other's languages. She'd come to Korea for a job. She'd stayed for herself. And somewhere along the way, she'd found something she hadn't even been looking for. A love that challenged her, supported her, and let her be exactly who she was meant to be. The mafia boss who'd fallen for his employee. The woman who'd made him work for every inch of her heart. And now they were writing their own story together as equals. It was messy and beautiful and absolutely perfect. Just like them.
Hello besties, in this story we learned that never let someone's inability to express themselves